If you had to pick between global warming and COVID-19, which would you choose? Can the government control the weather? Is this all conspiracy theory or Bible prophecy? Let's talk about it today on the Endtime Show. Here with Doug Norvell. We're taking your calls live. The number to join us is 877-ENDTIME, 877-363-8463. We're asking you the question, will Joe Biden manipulate the weather? But before we get into all that and more, maybe we'll talk about Sasquatch and who knows what else while we're covering all these conspiracy theories. Doug, I do want to tell you it's time to look forward to the future. Now available for pre-order. You can get Endtime's Get Clear Prophecy DVD bundle, a tool designed to help you find your purpose as we navigate the end times. Go to endtime.com/clear to pre-order today. Best of all, it's free with your donation of any amount. This bundle includes The Antichrist Socialistic Kingdom by Dave Robbins, The Two Witnesses by Doug Norvell, and Warn the Jews by me, Vince Stegall. So go to endtime.com/clear. or call 800-ENDTIME today. Previously, these were available only on Endtime Plus, but now the physical DVDs are available. We know many of you out there still want the physical DVDs, so they're available for a donation of any amount. Get yours today, endtime.com/clear, or call 800-ENDTIME. Again, we have open lines at 877-ENDTIME, 877-363-8463. Doug, will Joe Biden manipulate the weather?
Well, I think that's what he's going to try to do. If he's not already doing
This sounds
it.
insane. There's
I know it does.
It sounds like a movie plot.
Sure.
And that this evil president is going to try to change the weather, and
Yeah.
Superman has to come in and save the day or something like that.
Man, I wish there was a Superman, but there is a Jesus Christ, so he's going to come in and save the day eventually. So we've got that going for us. You know, we've got that to look forward to. Because at the end of the day, I mean, when all this crazy stuff that we're hearing about now, Vince, you really have to shake your head sometime, because it's, you know, conspiracy theory is starting to turn into reality. And I mean, we've heard people from the WEF, Klaus Schwab, Yuval Noah Harari, say things like humans are going to be able to be manipulated. You're going to be able to have your thoughts controlled and things like that. That we're going to have transhumanism, and they're going to be able to connect your brain to computers, and all these different things that just sound outrageous and far-fetched and like a sci-fi movie. But there's some interesting things when you begin to really search into this. And this story that came out, I think it came out on Monday, about the White House being exploring opportunities to seed clouds and to reflect those rays from the sun back up into space, as if this is something new. People have been saying this has been going on a long time. So we're going to look at that today and see what exactly is going on.
Are we going to talk about UFOs?
Well, I'm not. But,
what about JFK assassination?
Not today.
Any
no.
other conspiracy theories?
No.
Because if you would have talked about this maybe 5 months ago, people would say this is a conspiracy theory. The government can't control the weather.
Right.
But now they're announcing that they are going to try. And, of course, we've heard Bill Gates say things like this before.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. It's kind of weird, Doug.
Well, you know, when you begin to look into it and you begin to look and see when it started, when people started talking about weather manipulation and started talking about, you know, the spraying the sky with the chemtrails and things like that, you get into conspiracy theory, because there were people that were really big into this all the way back into the 90s, Vince, when it started. When they started talking about, we're going to talk about that a little bit, why they started talking about it, how that came to be. And those folks people thought they were crazy. They were on things like, what was that program that used to come on real late at night? And actually, Pastor Baxter was on there a couple times. I think it's Art Bell.
Yeah, that's
the Art Bell
Coast
show.
to Coast.
Yeah.
The radio
and
show.
so it was like they talked about all kinds of things, but every now and then Pastor Baxter would go on there and he'd lay down some biblical truth and really blow people's mind talking about Bible prophecy.
Well, can we do that now? Like Joe Biden manipulating the weather? What's the biblical truth in there? Is that Was that prophesied in the Bible?
Well, that's a great question. Is it prophesied in the Bible? And that specifically, no, is not. I couldn't find anything about weather manipulation being
You just searched for
in the
Biden
Bible.
and nothing came up?
I searched for weather manipulation. I really did in the Bible. And it all points back to God is the one that controls all of that, which I knew from the beginning. But it is interesting because it is about control. And so we're going to kind of see how the one world government might use something like this to manipulate people and manipulate different things. I mean, we've heard a whole lot of things about climate control and climate crisis and all these things. And so I think we ought to just jump into it and start ripping it apart, tearing it back, peeling that onion.
Well, we know that the Bible talks about a world government system that will be in place.
Right.
We know that it talks about the mark of the beast, and just overall in this government system, this world government system, the amount of control that they're going to try to impose on people like me and you,
right,
and our listeners out there. It's like, this is coming. We've already seen it happening. So I guess we should say it's here, but not to the magnitude that the Bible prophesies about. So when we see things like the White House announces that they're going to manipulate the weather, or at least study, I didn't say that, it said that they're open to studying how they could decrease sun rays. We'll get into the exact wording later on, but and so you see that and you're going, hang on, like they want to control the weather or be able to control the weather. And of course there's clips that we're going to share where people are saying, now that COVID's over, climate change is the big crisis we're going to highlight and push and try to get people to comply with the agenda.
Right.
So lots of weird stuff like that going around. And the Bible says that this type of control is going to be here.
Yeah. And, when you talk about the President of the United States, though, saying something like this and throwing it out there that, hey, this is something we're experimenting with, and we're going to see if this helps to do that. Well, here's the thing, that the first thing that comes to my mind, if this were a new technology, Vince, is what are the effects that it's going to have on human beings? What is the stuff they're spraying in the sky, and how is that going to affect you and me and our children when they're inhaling whatever they spray in the sky to reflect the sun? Sounds to me like it's going to have metal particles in it, sounds like. As a matter of fact, I'm cheating because I already know that it does have those metal particles in there. And so I'm kind of cheating on there. But what I'm saying is, how do they know the long-term effects of this? And will it actually be better for mankind or worse? Because the Bible tells us that as long as there is an earth, that there are going to be seasons. We're going to have summer, winter, fall, spring. We're going to have all those things. Genesis tells us that's the way God created it. And there's always going to be seasons. So there's going to be times when it's hot. There's going to be times when it's going to be cold. Sometimes it's going to be more than others just because of the way the earth does things. So it's interesting. We'll see what all this is about when we come back, I guess.
I don't know that they're that concerned about long-term effects, as we've learned.
Yeah.
Some of us learned it more recent than others, but we'll get into that on the other side of the break. And also talks about the sun being darkened. Is that in Bible prophecy? And is that what Joe Biden's trying to do? Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break.
A voice spoke to me and said, I've got something I want to show you. I was so sure God had talked to me. And I was stunned by what I saw.
A direct fulfillment of this over 2,500-year-old prophecy. The United States will stand with Israel.
Why haven't I ever seen this before?
1/3 of humanity will die. What do these beasts symbolize?
The lion, the bear, the leopard.
The combined beast from Revelation 13 represents the end-time government of the Antichrist. Understanding the end time.
Now available for pre-order at endtime.com/ABC. Go to endtime.com/ABC or call 800-ENDTIME. Satan and the elites of this world don't want you to understand the timeline leading to the second coming of Jesus. You can pinpoint where we are in the end time understand how you fit in, and be filled with hope in God's plan by watching The Future According to Bible Prophecy. Go to endtime.com/future or call 800-ENDTIME. That's 800-363-8463.
What if you could understand Bible prophecy? Dave Robbins, the host of the End Time Show's TV and radio programs, is holding a free prophecy conference near you. Gain peace and understanding about what the Bible says concerning end time prophecy. Call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com/events to see when Dave will be in a location near you.
Welcome back to End Time. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. We have open lines at 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. Will Joe Biden manipulate the weather? We're talking about that and what it has to do with Bible prophecy. Before we do, I want to remind you to go to endtime.com/clear to get our Get Clear Prophecy DVD bundle. It's going to help you navigate the end times, help you find your God-given purpose, and help you have peace and hope and understanding as we go through the days ahead. It's free with a donation of any amount. You can go to endtime.com/clear to learn more about it, or give us a call at 800-363-8463. Also, this topic is a pretty hot topic among the elites like Zuckerberg and Facebook in regards to weather control and climate change. And so anytime we are going to talk about a subject like this and tell you what the truth is to the best of our knowledge, tell you what the Bible has to say as well, they certainly want to suppress this type of information. So we need your help. Help us get through the elites by sharing this video, giving us a heart. Love the video. Don't just hit the blue thumbs up, but actually give us a heart. And then even commenting, interacting, sharing your thoughts. That will go a long way. In fact, if you're on board with this conversation today, why don't you go ahead and type the word Biden in the comments now. Biden, B-I-D-E-N. If you don't know how to spell it, there it is. Comment Biden, and we'll get to your questions and calls later on. 877-END-TIME is the number to join us. All right, Doug, we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about, a lot of things that people have wanted us to talk about for a long time, and we aren't necessarily going to dive off too much into conspiracy theories,
Right.
but we are going to tell people what is going on in the news today and what the truth is according to Bible prophecy and even data that's been provided by very large governments and firms, which I guess is how trustworthy we'll find out. So
Yeah.
where do we start?
Well, let's start taking everybody back to around the time that the COVID crisis was kind of starting to wind down, and the WEF and Klaus Schwab talked about what could be the next big crisis. So we got a video clip of that. Let's look at that real
Our
quick.
favorite, Klaus Schwab.
Yeah.
People assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen. The next crisis is already waiting for us around the corner, and it is the climate crisis.
So he's already telling us the next big crisis we have is a climate crisis. That's going to be the next big thing.
Do you know when that video was?
I don't.
A few years ago, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the date, but
Yeah, I don't know the date either. I just know
it wasn't this year.
No, it was like 21, I think.
Okay.
And so he was making that announcement that would be the next big crisis. Well, about that
How do you predict that?
I don't know. That's what's interesting.
Suspicion, and then here we are in 2023 talking about it. And
Yeah. And saying things like we're never going to go back to normal. Normal's not coming back, but the Great Reset is. That's what he's getting at. So that's very interesting that he brings that up, but that wasn't the only place we heard it that year either. So in 2022, when this video came out, Project Veritas did a secret undercover interview with a CNN executive. It was actually former head of CNN, Jeff Zucker. And this is what he had to say about what they did on CNN to kind of control the masses and spread fear.
they've already announced in our office that once the public will be open to it, we're going to start focusing mainly on climate. Climate, like global warming, and like that's going to be our next, like I don't know, like what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be our focus. Our focus was to get Trump out of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was, right? So our next thing is going to be for climate change awareness.
What does that look like?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I have a feeling it's just going to be like constantly showing videos of like decline in ice and weather warming up and like the effects it's having on the economy, and really diving into
decides that?
the head of the network, like just...
Who's that? Is that Zucker?
Zucker, yeah. I imagine that he's got his council and they've all like discussed like where they think...
So that's like the next...
pandemic like story like that will beat to death, but that one's got longevity, you know what I mean? It's not like there's a definitive ending to the pandemic, or like it'll taper off to a point that it's not a problem anymore. Climate, I think, is going to take years, so they'll probably be able to milk that for quite a bit,
So climate change overload.
Be prepared. It's coming.
Okay, so sorry, that was Charlie Chester. He was a former technician there with CNN. But the thing is he was saying that that's what they were going to push. Now, since the CNN head, Jeff Zucker, has resigned because of this video leak and because of what was going on there, it was exposed that what they were doing at that time, they were pushing COVID numbers and keeping it up all the time to keep people scared. And then she was asking him, well, what will the next thing be that you're going to push? And he said, probably climate change.
Doug, it's been a while since you and I have been on the dating scene like that, but
thank the Lord.
It seems, no doubt. It seems like if I remember back, and I would have been dating, if I would have been on a date with someone and they would have wanted to know more about climate change and things like that, I would have thought that I was being recorded.
Yeah, that's a little suspicious.
How many more times are they going to catch these guys being recorded?
Yeah,
talking about these details that a lot of people don't really normally care about like that. So
yeah, it's kind of weird that your first date would bring that up. Hey, let's talk about climate change. Okay. But yeah, it's kind of weird. But anyway, I agree with you. I could probably see that coming, I would hope.
Which brings up another conspiracy theory, and that's, are all these undercover recordings set up, which I don't believe, but people are posing that question.
Well, who knows anymore? We really don't know. So anyway, showing these things, we know that this is what they're setting up. What they're wanting us to believe is climate change is happening. And right now, Vince, they're treating people who say that there isn't a global warming or climate change like this. I mean, first of all, let's distinguish. There is climate change. Climate changes every day. I mean, the weathers fluctuate. They go up and down. We get rain comes in. It changes the climate a little bit. So that is true. There is climate change, but not global warming climate change that they're talking about that is man-made or man-made produced by fossil fuels and things like that. What you want to say?
I'm just admiring the big old ice in the background.
Yeah. But the thing is now, if you look, I mean, there are a lot of stories, Vince. When I was trying to go through things today, I was trying to look up some things that have happened in the past that you can't even find on the internet anymore. They've got them blocked to where you can't find them. There's video out there of a Air Force whistleblower, female pilot that was flying a plane that had chemtrail materials on the vehicle, on the plane, and she released it and showed pictures of them doing it and talked about it. That video has completely been wiped out. You can't find that video anywhere. That came out a few years ago. But the thing is that now they're saying if you are a climate denier, you're getting put in the same category as a COVID denier, a COVID vaccine denier, all those things that people were trying to tell us when COVID first came out is, hey, you can take this and this works and that type of thing, where they caused those people to be taken off line and not being able to have a voice anymore. That's why it always concerns me when we're going to talk about stuff like this, because they're listening for certain key words that I'm sure I've already said, and they're going to put it out. You know, they'll find a way to block us and get a video block. And so anyway, what we heard the other day, that's what I want to get to. They said the other day, July 4th was the hottest day on record of planet Earth. That it was hotter than any time that it's ever been. Okay, so we got.
I was going to ask you, like you just said that about global warming, but I know you worked outside in the last week.
Yeah.
And how hot it's been.
Yeah, it's been warm. It has, but not to the point. I lived through. I guess they think we have short memories because I lived back in the 80s. I was a kid growing up in the early 80s, and we had like 30-day continual 110 plus days. I mean, it was like 113 for an entire month. I mean, I remember that because I lived in an apartment complex with my mom, and I was at the pool every day because I was trying to get out of the heat. And the ground cracked so bad that you couldn't walk on the ground because your feet would fall in the crevices where the ground had cracked because we didn't have any rain. We had all this heat. And just a year before that, we had a horrible ice storm where it rained and it iced everything, and we lost power for a week, and everything was covered in ice. So the Earth goes through these changes. But they want to make you think that because the average global temperature, this is what this article says from CBS News, just so you know where I'm getting it from. It says the average global temperature for that day was 62.9 degrees.
Which day?
For the 4th of July.
This year?
Yeah, on Monday, or I guess Tuesday. So the 4th of July was when they talked about this being the hottest day. So 62.9 degrees, and that's an average global temperature. So that's the hottest it's ever been. But before that, I think it was only like 62.6.
No, like a few days before.
Yeah.
62.6.
But
before.
I think on record the worst was 62.6 or 62.4 maybe, average. But we're talking average. But I was outside all day Friday, mowing a yard. I was outside all day Saturday, cooking out and spending time with my family because we had, a cookout and a celebration for the weekend. And I mean, yes, it was warm, but this is July.
You guys wear masks or?
No, we didn't wear masks, and we didn't distance ourselves either. So, but I mean, this is July, so it's supposed to be hot, So those are just things. But this is the kind of stuff that they're telling us is happening. It says that not only that last month was the world's hottest June since records have been kept. European Union's climate monitoring service said, according to the agency France Press, the month was the warmest June globally, exceeding June of 2019. Which held the previous record, but it doesn't tell me there in the article how warm that was. So they blame it on, when you go down in the article, they blame it on the fact that we are driving vehicles that burn fossil fuels, that we are using coal, natural gas, oil, and all this warms the atmosphere. And then it says, and it's also we're having El Nino right now, that is, it warms the ocean waters up, which causes the storms to be worse. So because the ocean waters are warmer, then that causes...
Does that include the Gulf of Mexico?
I don't know if it does or not. I'm thinking that it's...
I hope so, because I'll be there in a few weeks.
Well, there you go.
Just for a little warmer water.
I'm sure it's going to be warm down there, because it normally is. Every time I've gone to the Gulf of Mexico, it's been warm, because this is Texas. But the Pacific Ocean is definitely warmer right now, and that's where they say a lot of these storms are coming from. So, anyway, those are stories right now that are in our headlines that they're talking about because they're pushing an agenda once again.
So what's the big deal?
Well,
why is this a problem?
To me, it's not. I mean, but
why is it a problem that they're talking about it? Why is this
here's
worth mentioning today?
Yeah, and the way that it ties into prophecy is the fact that they're going to use this, like what we've seen in the past, the WEF, the UN, all these sustainable development goals and the things that they want. I mean, right now, we know that California has already said that by the year 2035, you will not be able to have a gas-powered vehicle, period, in the state of California. And so this is their goals. They want to get rid of fossil fuels. That's one of the things that Joe Biden said when he was running for president. He said he would stop fossil fuels. He would stop the production of fossil fuels. And so here we go. We're moving into this direction of what they want. And I actually heard a very interesting comment the other day about the weight of battery-powered vehicles, how much more a battery-powered vehicle weighs than a gas-powered vehicle. And they're talking about if we ever transfer over to fully electric vehicles, the building garages and things like that, like where you park a lot of cars in a building garage, they're not built to sustain the weight, and we're going to start seeing collapses. We're going to see our roads are going to be damaged because the roads were not built for those weight standards of all these electric cars. So it's interesting because I don't know, are they thinking down the road? So these are things that come to mind, but this is all about, like I said before, the reason why it ties into Bible prophecy. This is about controlling us in these sustainable development goals where they want to move us off fossil fuels. They want to get us thinking that we're destroying this planet, and we've got to implement all these things, which we know the Paris Climate Accords or the Paris Climate Agreement is about wealth redistribution. So socialism.
Follow the money, huh?
Yeah, follow the money. So if you're in a country like ours that produces a lot of fossil fuel exhaust, then they want to charge you a lot of money and fine you for that, and then give that money to a country that doesn't do that. Or you can buy their points from them, which is wealth redistribution. You've got points, we've used all ours up, here's money, let's get your points so that we're not being penalized. So that's what it's about. But the interesting thing and what we're wanting to kind of touch on today is that the White House now has said that they're looking into this deflecting the sun's rays with particles that they're going to spray in the sky. So we say all that to get to that part.
So they are openly admitting that they're going to start spraying something in the sky that will reflect the sun to cool us down.
Yes, that's what this article is talking about.
Well, it's talking about how they are open to researching that. It's not saying that they're going to start it tomorrow.
Right.
It's saying they're going to research it. So there's not necessarily a firm commitment on it, but just the fact that they would announce that they're open to spraying something in the sky leads us down all sorts of rabbit trails, Doug. So
yes, it does.
We're going to get into that on the other side of the break. There's open lines at 877-Endtime, 877-363-8463. Esther in Washington, don't go anywhere. We'll get to you after the break. We'll be right back.
They that understand what is taking place will instruct many.
Except a man is born again, he can't enter or see the kingdom of God.
I don't care what label you've been given or what label you've given yourself, you are essential. You still matter.
This is a journey, and when we get to the other side of that, that's where our prize is, that's where our reward is.
Endtime is not going anywhere.
The symbols and prophecies within the book of Revelation have perplexed Christians and unbelievers around the world. In his final work, Revelation, The Unveiling of Jesus Christ Part 2, the late Irvin Baxter unlocks the mystery of the book of Revelation with in-depth analysis and commentary like you've never heard before. These comprehensive study tools, available for $299, will deepen your biblical understanding. Don't miss this special offer. Call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com.
Welcome back to the End Time Show. Vince Seagal here with Doug Marvell. Don't forget to go to endtime.com/clear to get the Get Clear Prophecy DVD bundle. Be sure to do that or call 800-ENDTIME today. It's available for free for a donation of any amount. So be sure to do that. Also, let's see, our tour is coming up you have to register by next month. So go to endtime.com/tour to learn more about the trip to the Holy Land. You'll go with Dave and Jana Robbins. Like I've told you many times, they don't have VIP rides or anything like that. They're not riding around in an SUV or whatever. They're on the bus with you, pointing out sites as you drive by them. Of course, they're with you the whole time, so when you get off the bus, they'll walk to the Western Wall with you and pray at the wall with you and talk about the significance of Bible prophecy at each of the stops. So it's a great time. You get to rub shoulders with Dave and Jana, and this last time Doug and Tina went as well. So pretty good time that they had. So be sure to go to endtime.com/tour if you've considered going to Israel. We would love for you to join us on our tour. All right. We're going to get to the phones real quick before we get back into what we're talking about today. Esther is watching in Washington. Esther, welcome to the End Time Show.
Application to talk. We've noticed a pattern with all governments, but especially the U.S., that they will tell us what they're going to do when they've already been doing it, sometimes for decades or 50 years. And we have proof of what they've been doing with the climate. If you go to Stratospheric Geoengineering, it's a website, and it is supported by notable scientists, PhDs, Nobel Prize winners, and the person that does that website is Dane Wigington. He's been on many, many shows, and what they are using, they started using this in the 1950s. It was considered the Black Project. Not even governmental officials knew about this. And you can learn about this through Earth Pulse Press, through Dr. Nick Begesh. And he has a book called Angels Don't Play This Harp. And what they've been using since the 1950s and been perfecting it, and also have been realizing massive mistakes, is HARP, which stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Program Project. Now what this is, it's cyclotronic energy or corkscrew pattern energy, and they've learned that when they beam this energy up to the ionosphere, then beam it, they can actually direct the beam down to Earth to any area they want, and then through the use of chemtrails, which is, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. No, it's true. It's just true. Let's just say that. It is true. And they
Esther, it sounds like you and my wife would get along real well. We're going to get into this story about the White House blocking the sun rays and talk a little bit about chemtrails and bring some of those facts that you're bringing up as well. So thank you for bringing that up, leading us right into that. So thank you so much for your call, Esther. God bless you. We have open lines at 877-ENDTIME, 877-363-8463. Doug, I tell you all the time, my wife's in it deep, so there's a lot of information that she has to offer. And I thought that this very subject would get her texting me again during the show and feed me info, but she won't do it yet. So
she's afraid now.
She's afraid, but
well, you know what Esther was talking about there. It talks about that in this article. It talks about geoengineering. It talks about stratospheric aerosol.
It was a perfect segue. It's like she has our notes.
It was, and I was afraid she was going to keep going, and I was like, well, she could just do the rest of the show for us. But no, I mean, she's totally right with everything she's saying, because that's what they're talking about, and that's what they're saying. This article, Vince, it says that this is a deliberate large-scale intervention in the Earth's natural system to contradict or counteract the climate change. Stratospheric aerosol injection would involve flying aircraft into the stratosphere or between 10 miles and 30 miles skyward and spraying a fine mist that would hang in the air, reflecting some of the sun's radiation back into space. Now, one of the interesting things about that, I used to have a picture, I showed it to you one time, where we were flying back from one of the conferences, and there was this fine, thin cloud cover under the plane, and I saw almost like a mirror image of the plane in the clouds below and snapped a shot from my window in the plane. And I had that for a long time, but I finally deleted it because I was like, I mean, we probably won't ever talk about this. Well, here we are talking about it, so I wish I would have kept that picture. But going to where she was talking about, she said, let's just say that it's not a conspiracy theory. That's what they have tried to downplay it as a long time for a conspiracy theory. Now, just in case some of our viewers, I know most of them probably already know this, but in case they don't, we have some pictures today I think they're going to show of what chemtrails look like. We got some behind us on the screen, but I think we've got some as well.
Are you saying chemtrails or proposed chemtrails?
I'm saying chemtrails because I'm going to tell you the difference. If you look at them, Vince, the difference in a contrail, which is what the scientists try to say this is, water vapor at a high altitude. If you watch a plane flying, it will disappear as the plane's going. It just kind of vanishes. It's behind it a little bit, but then it vanishes. These things stay out, they hang out, and then they spread out. And you can look at the patterns when they're spraying them. There's one of the patterns, the shot of the patterns. It almost looks like a tic-tac-toe board, or like they're doing, lateral and vertical type of, or horizontal and vertical shapes there to make a grid to where these clouds spread out. And if you'll ever notice, when you're looking up, once they start spraying like this, pretty soon the sun's covered. There's like clouds over the sun. And so it is reflecting those rays back. So anyway, that got started, a while back. I kind of had some information there that I got about when it started. And the reason why the chemtrail conspiracy theories began to circulate is because the United States Air Force published a 1996 report about weather modification. And it says, following this report, in the late 90s, the U.S. Air Force accused of spraying the U.S. population with the mysterious substance from aircrafts generating unusual contrail patterns. So that's how it all got started back in the day. It got started because they kind of talked about it, but the interesting thing, I don't know where we are on time right now. So the interesting thing, we got time for this.
Sticking away.
Can we do this? Can we hit those
don't know.
videos? So the interesting.
Well, before we do, I should say that Esther's call did get my wife to text me.
Good.
And my wife is telling me that I cut her off.
Yeah.
And I guess I missed that she was. I don't know what I missed, but I missed something.
Well,
so,
we apologize,
Esther. So sorry about that. So forgive me. It's all my fault.
Well, we're going to look into some of the things Esther was talking about. She gave some good information there, so if people want to research that, they can. But what I want to talk about here for a brief second, because there's video proof of this, I want to talk about what the military did during the Vietnam War. There was a project they called Project Popeye, like Popeye the Sailor Man, and it was very real. And so we've got a little bit of a clip about that, and then I want to kind of mention something, and we can show the second clip. So let's look at the first clip.
As the Vietnam War reached a crossroads, the U.S. Army had important decisions to make if they wanted to tip the scale back to their side. All options were on the table, both conventional and unconventional. And among the most unusual plots was Operation Popeye, launched in an attempt to weaken the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the Viet Cong's most vital mechanism and supply flow tool. To accomplish this, the U.S. would turn the weather into a weapon of war. Operation Popeye utilized cloud seeding technology, a type of weather modification that artificially creates rain or snow. With it, the U.S. military extended at least 5 monsoon seasons, causing detrimental effects to the unknowing Vietnamese citizens and soldiers. The mission spanned 5 years and cost taxpayers over $15 million. Despite multiple hearings in Congress, military officers, and even President Nixon himself denied it existing at all.
Okay, so
sounds creepy.
Yeah, and they were using this, Vince, as a way to make the monsoon season last to drench out the Ho Chi Minh Trail, because they said that they tried all kinds of things, blowing it up, doing all these different things, and it never worked because they would always find another way back into their camps and things like that. So they decided, well, if we can manipulate the weather during the monsoon season, we can wash these roads out, and the enemy won't be able to get their supplies, the weapons, the ammo, the food to feed their troops. So that's why they invented this. Now, I don't know.
But they said President Nixon, I believe, denied that it was true.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it, though. If you're the United States of America and you have a weapon like that, where you can weaponize the weather, do you want your enemy to know that you have that type of technology? Wouldn't you deny that, too?
I mean,
they've been denying it for a very long time.
Typically tell our enemies what we've got going on anyway. These days.
Well, these days we just give them the equipment.
That's what I'm saying.
But I
We're
mean,
coming on this date.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, we could all chalk this up to a white powder that was found in the library of the White House too. You know, maybe that's why Biden's saying all this stuff. But the thing is it's real and it's happening, and they do project kind of what they want to do to us years before they begin to do that. I'm beginning to see that and understand. But let me just say what they were doing in Vietnam. The pilots and the crew would go up into the clouds and they would spray a canister of silver or lead iodide. In 1960s, they considered that two primary sources for water condensation nuclei. And the plane crew would ignite the canisters and release the particle-rich smoke into the existing storm. If all went well, the jolt of artificial nuclei would just really make this storm intensify. And that would be, you know, what they were trying to get. So they were trying to get all the things to work. So they've been working on this, like Esther said earlier, since the 50s, because the earliest I found was that they were able to start developing this in 1948. And so it's interesting that they were doing that. Let's see, we've got
less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, we may not be able to hit that clip or not.
It'd be tight if we did.
It would be really tight. But we've got another clip that kind of shows a little bit more about what they were doing. We may or may not get to that after the break. I don't know if we can do that and get to phone calls or not. But
well, Esther called back. Why don't we get back to Esther since I cut her off?
Okay, go
apparently.
for it.
Esther, so sorry about that. Welcome back. We have about a minute here before we hit the break.
I'd be welcome back. Wonderful. Thank you so much for showing such a Christian spirit. You know, and that's what we're talking about in John. I think it's 14, verse 16. It says, "And I'm going to bring you a helper," and that was the Holy Spirit. And he says, "I'm going to bring you," and the Spirit is truth. That is the Holy Spirit. So whenever we sanction truth, God is blessing us. When we don't or when we ignore it, God gets angry with us, no matter who we are. So right now, all the evil is being exposed for a reckoning. And we have to remember, we are at the end times, and this is not the U.S. government that is doing it now. It was before, but now it is the globalists/Satanists that are controlling the climate. Remember that. It is not the United States anymore. The United States has lowered in its ability to have power because of Biden and his handlers. And Trump was going to change that. Trump did change that. And now they're saying, oh, we're going to use the climate to control the climate.
All right, Esther, this time it is a commercial break. Thank you for calling back and sharing a little bit more information. We do have open lines at 877 Endtime. If you'd like to join us on the show today, give us a call. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Judy Baxter. When Irvin and I got married, we didn't realize that our calling would be a prophetic ministry. Since we started Endtime Ministries, there have been many times we weren't sure how we would pay the bills, but God has always provided. We started with the magazine, then went on radio and TV, and now we have the Jerusalem Prophecy College in Israel and online with Endtime Plus. The mission has always been to reach people with the gospel of Jesus Christ and the Endtime message. Through the years, my husband would say, we will see revival like never before in the last days. We are living in the end time now. Thank you for walking this journey with us and continuing in prayer. You are a part of the team. Thank you for your generous support. It is necessary for God's purpose. The most important thing is that you are ready when the Lord comes. Our hope is to help prepare you for that day. God bless you, and we love you.
Welcome back to the Endtime Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. Open lines at 877 Endtime, 877-363-8463. Don't forget to go to endtime.com/clear to pre-order the Get Clear Prophecy DVD bundle. It consists of the Antichrist Socialistic Kingdom, The Two Witnesses by Doug Norvell. Of course, the Antichrist Socialistic Kingdom is by Dave Robbins, and then Warn the Jews by me, Vince Stegall. The Get Clear Prophecy Bundle is free with your donation of any amount. So go to endtime.com/clear or give us a call at 800-363-8463. You know, a lot of our stuff is on Endtime Plus, as you all know very well, but a lot of you say, hey, we want the physical DVDs. And so we're making those available for all of you out there with your DVD player still. I don't personally own one, but I know a lot of you do. So it's available for you now, endtime.com/clear. All right, Doug, we're talking about this this Popeye, Project Popeye.
Mm-hmm.
There's another clip. I know we're not ready to go off into it yet because there's a few more things you want to say, but I don't think we can get through the end of the show without explaining, without showing this additional clip on Project Popeye.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing I want to say is because of this, the weather manipulation and what the U.S. was able to do with this, and how it worked in Vietnam. One of the things that came from it, this is just one thing I want to touch on before we hit that video, is that because of this, there was an environmental modification convention, and an international treaty was made up to ban this in the time of war, so hostile forces couldn't take over this and use it. And that was interesting that Esther said what she said. It's not the U.S. anymore that controls this. Now it's the powers, like the world government powers. Well, one of the things that they were afraid of when they made this, and this was 1978 that they signed this into a law there, is that they were afraid that if evil forces got a hold of this, they could create earthquakes, tsunamis, tornadoes, and cyclones and things like that with this machine, that they would be able to do this with the technology they had there. And so there is an international environmental law against that, a treaty against that. So if anybody is truly using that, they're breaking international law. Of course, if it's the international powers that be that are using it, if it's really in existence now and this is what they're doing, to me, if Biden says, hey, we got this and we can do it, and it's the same type of thing, then he's breaking international law. But it's been going on for a long time. I'm telling you, I used to, you know, back when I used to be a youth pastor, I drove a school bus, and I would go on field trips, and while I was waiting on the kids on their field trips, I would wait in the bus and I would see them. I was sitting there watching them spray in the skies, and I'd just watch them back and forth all day spray as I was sitting there waiting for the kids to come back. And so I know that it's happened forever, but that's all I wanted to finish that article and let you know. This is from popscience.com is where this original article came from, but this is also on the History Channel. You can go to the History Channel and get a whole video about Project Popeye.
Wow.
So
how about that Project Veritas video?
Yeah.
You ready for that?
Well, that we don't have we already showed
Oh,
that.
Project Popeye, sorry.
Project, yeah.
I thought the other one was Veritas as well.
No, this one is the second part of that, of what I showed a while ago. So a little bit more information about what Project Popeye was. I want everybody to see this.
But there was one thing that significantly slowed the supply flow on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Rain turned the trails into muddy messes, rendering them too difficult to supply vehicles to maneuver. Vietnam is known for having one of the world's longest monsoon seasons, usually running from April to October. June, July, and August are the months with the heaviest rain. And so the Department of Defense decided to attempt to recreate this process. Their goal was to try to control the weather and extend the monsoon season for as long as they could. To achieve this, they resorted to cloud seeding. This process is thought to have originated in 1946 by Vincent Schaefer, a chemist employed by General Electric. Cloud seeding is a method for artificially producing rain or snow. It requires modifying a cloud's chemical structure to boost the chances of precipitation with the added substance of silver iodide, which works as a condensation agent. There are two ways to disperse cloud seeding agents, either using large cannons to shoot the particles into the sky, or using airplanes to drop the particles from above.
Okay, so the reason why I wanted everybody to see that is this is exactly what our president is talking about doing right now, cloud seeding, and dropping it to where it produces more clouds. Well, out of that, you've got to ask yourself, because we're being told by people like Al Gore that the reason why we're having these intensified storms now, the reason why we're having the extreme heat, all the things that are happening is because of global warming, man-made induced global warming by fossil fuels and things like that. But you've got to ask yourself a question. Is it conspiracy theory anymore when we've just shown you that this has existed since, they said 1946. So since 1946, and did you notice that there was like a blue beam that they were shooting in that laboratory when they were doing it? They were like shooting a blue beam that was doing something with the clouds that they had made up. It's interesting as well, because there's been footage about stuff like that where these blue beams have been seen shot out of the sky. People are getting video footage of it. And if those videos are real, then things happen after they see these beams. So it's interesting, but the main thing that I want to talk about today is not the conspiracy side of this, but I want to talk about the fact that they're able to do this and they're beginning to tell us, and they are doing it for fear purposes, to drive an agenda like they do with everything. Klaus Schwab told us that would be the next thing we would deal with. So what are they going to want to do next? They're going to want to take away, well, I mean, what did we see this year? What are things we're seeing? Well, you got to stop producing cattle. You got to stop having cows because when they pass gas, they're causing global warming. When they eat, food that's been fertilized, the fertilizer's causing global warming. So they've shut down farms, they've shut down cattle ranches, they've done all these things because of this fear-induced agenda they're trying to push. And now they want to take away your cars.
What good's that though? What good is doing any of this stuff? Like
as far as what?
Like for their agenda. How does shutting down a farm, or how does even saying they're going to research and block the sun, how does that advance the global agenda of the World Economic Forum?
Well, for one thing, remember what they've told us their goals are. So you won't eat meat anymore. That'll only be for special occasions, and the meat you eat will be produced in a lab. There was an article the other day that the FDA has approved a lab-produced meat that they've made in a lab that's not even real meat from a real cow, and they're saying now you don't even need cows to do this. And so, I mean, all this is part of their agenda to move you off of where you are to control you. If they can shut down your food supply, if they can shut down your ability to travel. We've talked about all these things before when we've talked about smart cities and how they don't want you leaving your city because of you producing a carbon footprint and all these things. It's all about control, Vince. They want to shut us down, put us in these little cubes, and tell us what we're going to do. Remember, Yuval Noah Harari made a comment one time, and we showed it on a video here, that he said the only thing that humans will be good for is playing video games and taking drugs in the future, because there's going to be AI and it's going to be controlling everything, and we won't need people anymore. And if that's the way that they look at us, as we're just useless individuals in the future because they're going to have AI and only the elites are going to have certain things, and we're going to be the have-nots. Remember, you'll have nothing and you'll be happy. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
How much of the God complex plays into this? Because I think about there are people who feel like they have God powers, where because they might be able to operate on someone and save their life, or because they might be able to fly a plane, or anything that goes against like normal human behavior or how it's been for thousands of years. People that are doing things like this, ability to control the weather, that's like they're going to get a God complex, and they're going to think that they have powers that are greater. I think about the Tower of Babel. Being able to have powers that are greater than what they really are.
Well, so I think you're hitting the nail right on the head. I think that's what it's all about. I mean, they already feel like they're gods, and that's what they want, is to be able to control everybody and rule over them. That's what all this is. I think it is a God complex.
We talk about the spirit of the Antichrist, where there's things happening that may not be, someone may not be the Antichrist, but the spirit that the Antichrist will have certainly either dwells in them or controls them, or however that plays out. So this agenda, it seems to be playing out on a global scale already, but we haven't seen anything yet, according to the Bible.
No, we haven't seen anything yet. And, one of the things that doesn't concern me to where I'm afraid or anything. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not afraid, because I know God's in control. But one of the things that I think about is when I hear all these people, because everybody sends me stuff like this. So I've been looking at stuff like this for years, but we're just finally talking about it because the President of the United States said, hey, we may start doing this. Well, they're already doing it. But the thing is that when people
I thought they always ask for permission.
Oh, no. So, whenever we start hearing, oh, don't worry because this is going to happen and this is going to happen and these people are really in control and blah, blah, blah. I don't see it that way, because I see these things are happening. They're in Bible prophecy, that there's going to be a world government, that one world government is going to have a one world leader. It's going to be the Antichrist. He's going to have his partner, the false prophet, and they're going to have a global economy that you're going to have to join up with and take the mark of that global economy and worship that Antichrist figure if you're going to participate in that. Well, we see those things happening. We're sitting here watching it happen, and to say, no, it's not really going to happen, they're going to stop all this, that there's white hats that are going to rush in and save the day type of thing, that's not what Bible prophecy tells me. Now, Bible prophecy does tell me that the U.S. is not going to be part of this. And it appears to us that we will get pulled out of the world government, and that's what we talk about so much on here. So hopefully we're going to have a administration change, and the new president, whoever that may be, is going to come in and pull us out of world government. And there's a lot of people right now, that are saying some very interesting things, that they could be the next president. You never know. I mean, one of them that's very interesting to me, and he's saying a lot of things, and people call him a conspiracy theorist, is Robert Kennedy Jr. Man, he is dropping truth bombs all over the place, and they don't like him for it, and it's kind of like a Trump situation where Trump is saying all this stuff.
But he's a Democrat.
Yeah,
you got a Democrat saying a lot of the same things the Republicans.
I know, isn't that interesting? Wouldn't it be something if they both ended up on the same ticket?
That would be weird.
It would, but that might be something that could happen to pull us out of world government and all this stuff that's happening. But as far as seeing the EU crash and seeing the one world government crash and all these elites crash, I don't see that happening, because we're getting to that point where in Bible prophecy we're beginning to see all the pieces begin to fall together.
Doug, one thing in regards to, the God complex, one thing they don't want us, and by they I mean the establishment and whatever that means, it could be religious, governmental, or whatever, they don't want us to know what we consider the cornerstone of all truth, which my kids and I and my wife, we say it multiple times a day. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all their heart. And it goes on. And so, one Lord, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Because if there's only one Lord and I'm not it, well, I don't want you to know that. Or if there's only one Lord and it's not this government leader, now we have a problem. And so if your allegiance is to the one Lord of the Bible, well, then that goes above my power over you. And so they don't want us to know that.
They don't want that at all.
What do Christians do? In 15 seconds.
Well, the really great thing about it, Vince, is that God is in control of this. He's in control of the weather. Ultimately, He's in control of everything. And one day, Jesus is coming back, and He'll establish His kingdom on this earth. And all these kingdoms of men will be under His feet.
Yep. And we go into that in detail with this new prophecy bundle, the Get Clear Prophecy DVD bundle. Go to endtime.com/clear. It's free with a donation of any amount. Check it out today and have peace and hope as we navigate such crazy times in our world. We'll see you right back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central Time.